What's up folks, Mike here at William Watches. Welcome to the video, and this is another video in the series of a beginner's guide to watch repair. If you haven't checked out my previous videos on either the screwdrivers or tweezers, then go and check them out. I'll leave either some links in the description below, or I'll leave an annotation somewhere on the screen if you wanted to go and check those out. So I covered the basics of what screwdrivers you need in order to start in watch repair, and I've also briefly touched on the types of tweezers that are available, what materials they're made from, what you should sort of look for. So the next tool that I would like to discuss is, of course, if you haven't already guessed, is movement holders. Now obviously there are millions of different types of movements: manual winds, automatics, quartz, chronographs, pocket watches, timers. There's an absolute huge array of different types of movements that have been made over the years, and of course for each and every single movement you could actually have a movement holder for each and every single one. Hence why there's such a selection here on display. Each of these movement holders here is specific to different types of movement. So you have a couple of here for Rolex, one for an Omega chronograph. This one is actually made here in a shop by me to hold a 6139 chronograph from Seiko. Valjoux 7750 movements. There's absolutely a huge array of different types of movement holder, and as a professional obviously I have to have different types of movement holder because they give me more precise control over very specific movements. But when you're starting out in watch repair, it can get quite confusing having seen so many different types of movement holder. So what I would recommend going is for something more universal. So what I would recommend is something like either one of these two Burgeon holders. Now these movement holders are pretty much the same thing. This one is made from carbon fiber and this one is made from steel. Both of them have a small side and a larger side, so you can use these movement holders on small movements all the way up to pocket watch movements. So the basic principle is you've got these two plates and they slide on these two rails and are reduced in size or increased in size by the screw, so you can tighten them down. Now one side you have a stepped platform, and you can use this for smaller wristwatch movements, mechanical or quartz, and then on the other side you have slightly larger size, and you can actually hold pocket watch movements up to 19, maybe even 20 line size on that. So you can get them in steel. You can also get them in carbon fiber, which is less likely to leave marks on any movement plates. And either of these two I would recommend. They're really great and they cover about 80% of the movements that you're ever likely to come across. Now obviously as you progress in watch repair, you'll probably want to go with more specific types of movement holder. But if you're just starting out, these are the types of one that I would recommend. And I'll leave some links down in the description to a couple that I recommend. If you can afford to get the Burgeon ones, then by all means go and get the Burgeon ones. I know there are some cheaper options out there, but they tend to be a bit sloppy Joe. So if you can afford the Burgeon versions, then go with those. There are some spring-loaded versions which I've seen, and some people will swear by the spring-loaded versions. I wouldn't recommend personally going for a spring-loaded movement holder. If the movement has to be held in by some sort of spring tension, then there's the possibility something can go wrong. That tension could lose grip on one side or the other, and the movement could go flying out and cause damage. So that's the reason why I wouldn't recommend using a spring-loaded one. You'd want something like this where the tension can be preloaded and controlled by hand, and you can feel it with your fingers when you're screwing it in, or a loose type movement holder like this. These hold movements securely but without any tension, so the risk of damage is much less in my opinion. So that's it pretty much for the video. If you're looking to get a movement holder, which is essential when it comes to watch repair, you want to keep that movement steady and still whilst you're working on it, then my recommendation would be to go with either one of these types of fitting. If you're tending to go with smaller movements, smaller ladies movements, these can still work on the smaller ladies movements, but they do actually make a smaller version of this from Burgeon as well, and I'll try and leave that link in the description below. But that's pretty much it for this video. There will be other videos in the future where I go over the types of movement holders that I make here myself in the shop for various movements, because sometimes there is a need for a very specific type of movement holder. But for majority of work, like I said, these will do just fine. So that's it for the video. hopefully be back again with another video in the near future. But until then, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.